The Los Angeles Chargers will not be signing Keenan Allen this year, at least according to the latest ESPN report that we break down on this video. Chargers Now is presented by Prize Picks. I am your host, Will Ortner. And according to ESPN, Chargers, they feel pretty comfortable about their wide receiver room. And this kind of caught me off guard, and that's why I view this report as really dropping a bombshell, because it felt like at some point the Chargers were going to go and add Keenan Allen. Now, obviously, he didn't have necessarily exclusive interest in the Chargers, but it felt like the team and where Keenan Allen was at, a deal could eventually get done. This almost looks a little bit to one of those situations where it's a will they, won't they when it comes to a dating relationship, and you just always assume, yeah, at some point they're going to get married. They might be broken up right now, but they end up always reconciling and coming back together. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the situation after this ESPN report. So let us know down below in the comment section. Are you excited or are you happy that the Chargers won't sign a wide receiver? Specifically, are you happy that the Chargers won't sign Keenan Allen? Or are you kind of in a situation right now where you feel like the team is making a big, gigantic mistake? Let us know if this is a yes or a no for you. For me personally, I don't know that it's a big, gigantic mistake. And after we get into this quote, I think we'll go through my takeaways. So let's start with Dan Graziano of ESPN fame. He, of course, has been at Chargers camp. And this is essentially what he had to say on the matter. Don't expect another late offseason veteran wide receiver addition like the Chargers made last year when they brought back Keenan Allen. They feel great about what rookie wide receiver Brenen Thompson has shown in camp and the improvements they've seen from Quentin Johnston, Trey Harris, and Derius Davis. They also have Ladd McConkey, whom McDaniel plans to make liberal use of, as a do-everything receiver. McDaniel told me Johnston, McConkey, Harris, and KeAndre Lambert-Smith were all receivers he had targeted in the draft when he was at Miami. Now, I think when you read through that quote, and Graziano has a full piece where he details all of his time at Chargers camp, would highly recommend that anyone who loves the Chargers reads that article, of course, after you watch this video all the way through to its entirety 3 times. Then I would say go and read that article. I think there's a handful of different ways to look at this, and I think there are some good things for the Chargers. I also think that there are some bad things for the Chargers, and then there are simply just going to be some things that Chargers fans are not going to love. First of all, the number one thing is, I think the time where Keenan Allen is a Los Angeles Charger, I think that's done. I view this report essentially as saying that the Chargers don't have any interest, not in Stephon Diggs, because who would care about Stephon Diggs in Los Angeles? They care, and everyone cares about Keenan Allen. And at this point through his career, obviously when he's on the field, he's still very successful, but there is a clear downturn. Every year, his average has essentially gone down. Now, in the last 4 years, the touchdown numbers are still pretty decent. The yardage numbers are still pretty decent. Receptions are still pretty decent. But I think it's also very clear that Keenan Allen is not the player that he was 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. So I look at this whole thing as a bit disappointing because it felt like Keenan Allen is the type of player that should retire a Los Angeles Charger. And it's clear that he doesn't view his career as being over. Clear he wants to keep playing football, and I think that's something interesting and important to remember. But as a person who likes West Coast football, as a person who likes the Chargers, as a person who likes Keenan Allen, you want to see the greats retire in their main uniform, I guess is the way that I'm going to put it. Keenan Allen, in my head, will always be a Charger. He'll never be a Bear or whatever team he signs with. Else, he should retire a Charger, and that's disappointing that he won't be. A positive takeaway, though, is if the Chargers aren't going to bring in Allen or any other veterans, they clearly love the wide receiver room that they have created. And I think that's very important for Chargers fans to look at and to realize. Because when you look at this crew, there's a lot of really solid players in there with a rookie who hasn't been able to show what he can do quite yet on the field, but through OTAs, minicamp, and training camp, he has looked very good. We'll go through the numbers of the big 3 here in just a moment, as well as talk about some other takeaways I have. But first, I need to let you know that today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app and is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Today is Taco Tuesday. Throughout the day on Tuesdays, Prize Picks releases multiple discounted player projections called tacos that are marked with a taco icon. These discounted projections make a player's more selection more favorable than the standard projection. Each taco is only available for a limited time before rotating to a new discounted projection, encouraging users to check the app throughout the day. Users can include these discounted picks in any lineup alongside their favorite selections. I have a lineup for the football action going on later on this year. Justin Herbert, more on his pass yards. Quentin Johnston, more on his receiving TDs. Rashid Shaheed, more on his receiving yards. New user offer. Best of all, play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. Just use code HMA when you sign up. That's right. Prize Picks just switched up their offer, so there's no better time to join. Lock in and win that first lineup. That's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 plus lineup. Now, obviously, the big three for the Chargers of guys who have already seen NFL time is going to be Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey, and Trey Harris. Now, last year, the production from this crew, 15 touchdowns, you end up having, just over 1,700 yards, if my math is correct there. And then you end up just north of 110 receptions. So a decent amount of production from this crew. However, I would make the argument that it should be greater than what it was. It should be something, in my opinion, that is much, much higher. And I certainly got those reception numbers off as I'm doing the math quickly here. It should excite Chargers fans that while the production was a bit low, that there is still a belief in that organization that this is just the beginning for these three. It also shows just how much the Chargers very much value the type of player that Brenen Thompson can be for this team. It shows that Greg Roman wasn't running the offense correctly and using the weapons that he had on this team in the best way possible for the Chargers, which brings me to my next point. Mike McDaniel has clearly made a big difference with this crew. Because the reason why the Chargers brought in Allen last year was, well, one, it's nice to get the band back together. But two, and I think this might be a bit more important, they felt like they needed him because the other players around that wide receiver room were not performing the way that they could be. McDaniel, he's known for being an elite offensive mind. And because he has an elite offensive mind and he runs things a little bit differently, he is able to get the most out of a handful of his players. When you look at his mind, the use of 13 personnel, how his offense looks, Mike McDaniel knows how to situate his wide receivers, his running backs, his quarterbacks, even his offensive linemen, and certainly his tight ends, into the best position possible for them to have success. You can say what you will about Mike McDaniel as a coach or his fashion sense. Look, I certainly can't pull off a lot of the things that he pulls off. There's one thing that is very clear that no one will dispute. He's a brilliant offensive mind and knows how to design a scheme that is going to best help the players around him. You're already hearing high praise from him, from me, and from many of the other Chargers content creators, as well as NFL experts and NFL insiders. So it's very clear that Mike McDaniel has already made a large impact on this team and a large impact on this roster. And if he is saying, I don't need another wide receiver, because trust me, if he felt like he needed another one, he would make the call on that. The Chargers feel like they are in a good spot with the Young Bucks, and they certainly feel like they are building the correct way. The Chargers room doesn't need another wide receiver. They don't need another wide receiver in that room right now. That position group is rock solid. If there's an injury, that might change, but right now, this is where we're at. Do you agree with that statement, or do you disagree with that statement? I'm certainly interested in hearing what you have to say. I'm not going to say that Justin Herbert is a diva. I think he's the exact opposite of that. Certainly, he's someone who feels like he can make the most out of any opportunity that he has, and he is certainly someone that it sounds like from everything that he has said and has been a part of in the media that he is a team player. He cares about his team. He cares about what's going to come from that group. He cares about making sure that everyone around him feels comfortable. He is a good leader. Players want to play with him. Coaches love coaching him. He's someone who's clearly had a successful career. If he was upset about something in the wide receiver room, I don't know that he would necessarily be on the forefront. He's not going to be at the paper saying, hey, I need more talent around me. But I do think that there would be conversations between his quarterback coach, offensive entire staff, Jim Harbaugh, Joe Hortiz. They would all know how he feels about the weapons around him. He has clearly not made it known to anyone, because I don't think he feels like he needs to, that this wide receiver room is lacking a player. And if he isn't mentioning anything, albeit behind the scenes, then it's clear that the Chargers value that opinion and they're not going to make a move on it. Justin Herbert, to me, is not someone that's going to run to the media. But if you held true serum to him, and these are conversations that happen all the time in NFL and college football programs and organizations, they have real honest conversations about where their rooms are at. Justin Herbert has clearly said he likes where that wide receiver room is at. And if he's saying he likes it, there's not going to be anything that is done. The last takeaway that I have. What are we going to do with all the cap space? It certainly felt like Keenan Allen would have been an easy plug-and-play type of a player for this team. He's someone who's played in the organization. He's someone that's had success at that wide receiver room. The Chargers right now, at least according to Over the Cap, have over $40 million in available cap space. That's a ton of money. Now, maybe some of that gets impacted on the Thule extension, but when you look at what the Chargers have, there's a ton of space for them to go and make a big trade. There's a ton of space for them to go and sign a free agent. Now, Joe Hortiz has made it clear that he wants to build his teams through the draft. And so maybe he's thinking, if I hold on to some of this cap space, we can use it in a rollover situation. But I'm at a point now where I feel like a move has to be made. It almost feels like you're going into halftime or potentially going into an end-of-game situation with all three of your timeouts. Now, Hortiz does have until the trade deadline, in my opinion, to go and make a move that would end up bringing a big-name player to the Chargers. But it seems clear that he has no intentions of making a big move. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. This is a team that's in a situation where they can win the Super Bowl this year. Not win the AFC West, not win the AFC, win the frickin' Super Bowl. And there's another team in Los Angeles right now that, while I don't necessarily agree with what they're doing in their cap situation either, they've made it clear they're not afraid to make any move happen. Myles Garrett, we'll trade for him. McDuffie, we'll trade for him, and we'll sign him. Aaron Donald, you want to come back out of free agency? We'll pay you too. When I look at this, Hortiz has to do something. I'm not saying he has to spend the $40 million willy-nilly, but there are going to be teams that get desperate by the trade deadline. Don't be afraid to pull the trigger on someone. Don't be afraid to make them move. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We're within 700 subscribers of 6,000 subs. That's really stinking cool. Plus, you notice we didn't talk about the first padded practice today. That's not going to be how the day ends. We're going to have another video later on tonight that you don't want to miss. So hit that sub button. Never miss any Chargers news or content ever again. Thank you for viewing the video. Can't wait to see you next time, and bolt the freak up.